This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So did you understand the hiring process, Abhi? Did you also hire an employee? Abhi, can you hear me?
Sir.
Did you hire an
Yeah,
employee?
yeah.
Did you do the configurations yourself?
No, sir, just completed organization structure, sir.
Mm-hmm. No, like
I
you're
mean,
way beyond. You're way beyond.
yeah, sir, yeah, right. Actually,
Okay,
till
that's
now I
okay.
didn't, yeah, till now I didn't.
All right,
Uh,
that's fine.
Sir, is it okay from my side? Yeah. Is it audible? Do you have
Yeah,
any
yeah.
disturbance from my side?
No, no.
No, nothing. Okay, fine. Yeah,
Keep the mic little away from your mouth. Yeah.
that's what. Sorry, sir.
All right. So let us go to PA30. I hope you are able to see my screens. Let's go to
Sir, yes, sir.
PA30. PA30. And first of all, check the employee whom we have hired. Yeah. Check the employee whom
Yes, sir.
we have hired. You remember the personal number by any chance?
Sir, yes, sir. Personal number we took it as, man, that is something. It's no, sir. It's in
Yeah,
2000.
three followed by
Yes,
zeros
sir.
is the
2000.
seven. No, this is not the one.
I wrote it somewhere.
Okay. So how do we, find an employee,
Sir.
whose personal number we are not aware actually. Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
if you want to find an employee, at least we need to know the name. Yeah. At least we need to
Yes, sir.
know the name. Hopefully I have given, yeah, the same. Okay. So it is 4 followed
Sorry.
by all zeros. This is the employee whom we have hired. Simple. All right. So at least we need to
Right.
know the personal number. If you don't know the personal number, you need to know at least the name of the
The name.
employee. Only then you'll be able to identify in PA30 or PA20. PA30 is the transaction code using which we can change or display the master data. PA20 is the
Okay.
transaction code using which we can only display master data. Yeah, we can only display master data. So in few of the servers, even we, as a functional consultants, we will have only access to PA20, for instance, production. We will not have access to production to change the employee master data because master data is the lookout or it is the responsibility of the client. We don't take care the responsibility of the master data. Yeah, client is responsible for it. We only
Okay.
take care of the configuration part, that too in development client. And once we are done the development client, we move it to other clients. But we don't, redo all these configurations in any of the other clients or servers. We just move the transports. Yeah, the business can move the transports. And there's a difference between the master data. Whenever we maintain the master data in the PA30, transport will not be generated. Yeah, it is just a master
Okay.
data maintenance. It is the responsibility of the end user or the business user or the business or the customer. Yeah, is the responsibility of the business. So we don't touch master data. We don't make changes to the master data in production system. In
Okay.
production. All right. So these are a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. And looks like we have captured, I think after hiring, that was the last thing that we discussed, I guess, is it, Sham? Did we discuss anything after hiring? I don't think so.
Uh, After just we completed payrolls. That's it. In
Okay.
payrolls.
Mm-hmm.
We completed parameter and at last we completed payroll. It's like P3 monthly payroll, P4.
Mm. That is, we have configured the payroll area. Okay.
Okay.
That is very well before we hired an employee, actually. So my question is, after hiring an employee, did we discuss anything? That was my question.
No, sir. No, sir.
So
We
that's
just
the
created the
reason.
employee.
That's the reason practice is very important. Okay.
Okay, asking that. Actually, after hiring the employee, we didn't, sir. We didn't did anything.
Okay. That's fine. You need to practice, Avi. If you don't practice, you cannot get anything. Let me be upfront. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a fact of
Actually,
life.
I have practiced organization structure, sir, till now. Means I'm doing slowly to understand myself.
Okay. That's your choice. That's fine. All right. So let's move forward and then take it ahead from here. Now, um, now after finishing the after finishing the hiring process, yeah, if you look at the PA30 screen, yeah, if you look at the PA30 screen, this is how it is going to look like. And against and the list of things, whatever we are seeing here, these are all info types. These are all info types. Just like in organization management, we have seen list of info types. Here also we can see list of info types. Actions is one info type. Organization assignment is another info type. Personal data, a third info type. Addresses, a fourth info type. Planned working time, so on and so forth. We have a whole lot of info types. We have a whole lot of info types. And against these info types, you are seeing a tick mark. Yeah, you are seeing a tick mark, which means that if at all you are seeing a tick mark, it means the info type record exists. Yeah, if at all you are seeing a tick mark, it means that the info type record exists. If there is no tick mark, that means we did not create any info type records for this particular employee for that particular info type. Yeah, that is what it means. So while hiring an employee, we have actually maintained all these info types. We have maintained all these info types. Now, if you go to PA30, once again, use the personal number.
Okay.
Okay. So for whichever info types you are seeing a tick mark, it means that we have maintained those info type records. Yeah. And we have maintained all these info type records while hiring an employee. While hiring an employee, they all got
No.
triggered. All these info types got triggered. Now, if you click on actions, what exactly is this actions info type? If you click on actions, because there is an info type record exists, we can say display. Yeah, click on display. When you click on display, you will be able to see how this info type actually looks like. This is how the info type actions look like. Yeah, this
Okay.
is how the info type actions look like. So in this info type, we have information pertaining to, the hiring action of this employee. Yeah, how exactly this employee got hired. He got hired using an action type called as hire, and he got hired using a reason for action called as expansion. And this employee is an active employee. Yeah, active employee. And this is a
Okay.
position against which the employee got hired. This is the personal area against which the employee got hired. This is the employee group and subgroup against which this particular employee is hired. Yeah, is hired. And apart from that, we'll also see something called as additional actions, in which we'll be able to see this action type once again. Yeah, this action type once
Oh,
again. So
I
why
see.
we see these additional actions? Yeah, why exactly we see these additional actions? We'll discuss when we configure the action type moving forward. Yeah, we'll also configure. For example, we have used an action type called as hire. Okay, personal action. So we will configure something called as VASINC hire. So at that point of time, I'll tell you what is the importance of these additional actions and all this stuff. Yeah. As of now, you can just remember that this is how this info type looks like, called as actions. Yeah, actions. Then navigate back, you have the next info type called as organizational assignment. Yeah, organizational assignment. You
Assignment.
click on display, and you'll be able to see this info type called as org assignment, which looks like this. Yeah, which looks like this. So in this info
Okay.
type called as organizational assignment, yeah, we see the company code information, personal area, cost center, if at all we have maintained cost center, then personal sub area. Okay, so all these components are of enterprise structure. That's the reason why you see enterprise structure here, right? This is the enterprise structure
Okay.
of the employee. Then personal structure, we have employee group, employee subgroup, and payroll area, the P3 against which we have actually hired the employee. Then organizational plan. So as a part of the organizational plan, we will see the position. Then if at all we have assigned a job, we can see job. Right now, job is not assigned. Then organizational
Okay.
unit, yeah, and all. Then administrators. Who are the administrators who are going to maintain the personal data, time data, and payroll data of this particular employee? So these are the administrators. And we have defined
Okay.
the administrators, and we have default the administrator group using the pinch
Right,
feature.
sir.
So that's the
Yes,
reason
sir.
we are seeing, all these administrators here. So this is how info type 1 looks like. Yeah, info type 1. Then info
Oh,
type 2, personal data. Yeah, personal data. You click on display and you'll be able to see what are all the fields that are present in personal data. Of course, we have captured all this information while hiring an employee itself. Yeah, while
right.
hiring an employee itself. But then if you want to see, if you want to see, what information exists in personal data, so this is how you can see after the hiring process is finished. So we have the SSN, we have date of birth, language, and all this stuff, yeah, which we have captured
Yes, sir.
while hiring this employee. Then addresses. So click on addresses, choose addresses, and say display, and we'll be able to see the address information, whatever we have captured, yeah, whatever we have captured.
Yes.
So this is how all these info types look like. Yeah, all these info types look like. And then apart from this, we also have another info type that we can see here that is called as planned working time. Yeah, planned working time. And we are yet to capture this info type record. So we'll look into this once we get there. Uh, Now here you are seeing a field called info type. Yeah, info type. If you click on
Mm.
this info type, if you click on the drop down near this info type, or if you say F4, yeah, if you say F4, then you'll be able to see all the list of info types pertaining to personal administration, time management, payroll, benefits, and other modules. Other modules. There are how many info types totally? What is the number you are seeing here?
Three, 398.
398 info types we have. Yeah, we have 398 info types
Yes, sir.
pertaining to USA country grouping. This is pertaining to the USA country grouping. So you can
Okay.
actually scroll down and find out, what is the info type, and you can click on create, and you can actually see what is the information that is existing here. But frankly speaking, even the working consultants with so many years of experience, we don't use all these info types. We only
Okay.
use those info types that are really relevant as per the client's business process. That's all. So for a particular
Okay.
customer, at most we might be using some 50 info types. That's all, at most. Yeah,
Okay.
or
Yes, sir.
60 info types that are most relevant for them. Yeah, that are most relevant for them. So we'll also see, how to configure, majority of the info types we are going to see. Yeah, and then in different submodules actually, in different submodules. Now, if you observe, by way of creating the org structure, personal structure, enterprise structure, we have actually configured info type 1. We have actually configured info type 1. So
Type
what
1.
is the information that you are seeing in info type 1? All the information that we have already configured, that is what we are seeing here, right? The payroll
Yes,
area,
sir.
we have done the configuration. Enterprise structure, we have done the configuration. Personal structure, we have configured it. Org
All.
plan or org structure, we have configured it. So when we have configured, if someone asks you, did you configure info type 1? So if you have configured all of this, then you will say that yes, I have configured info type 1, right? If you have not
Yes, sir.
configured any of these components, then you say that I did not complete the configuration. That is what it means. Yeah. So if you want to configure info type 1, that means that you have to configure all these individual components individually, and then that is when you say that okay, I have done the configuration. Yeah. And when you actually hire an employee, you'll be able to see the output of it. You'll be able to see the output of it.
All.
Now, actions, of course, is an info type. We didn't, of course, there are certain fields in which in this particular info type that we have configured, but then the major thing here is the action type. The major thing here is the action type, and during the due course of personal administration configurations, we'll discuss about how to configure an action type as well. Yeah, how to configure
Oh,
an action type. We are going to see during the due course. During the due course. So, and in personal data, there is nothing that we have to configure. We have all the fields available. All we need to do here is simply the data entry part.
okay.
Only the data entry part. So there is nothing like
Right.
configuring in this particular info type. Navigate back. Then addresses info type. Yeah, addresses info type. Info type 6. Yes, addresses. Addresses. Let us see how to configure addresses info type. Yeah, let us see how
Yes,
to
sir.
configure addresses info type. Now, while hiring an employee, maybe we have captured the address, but then if you click on the subtype here, yeah, if you click on the subtype, for this particular info type addresses, we have a subtype. If you click on the subtype, we have varieties of address types. Yeah, varieties of address types. That means you can capture a permanent residence address of an employee. You can capture temporary residence address of an employee, or you can
Okay.
capture emergency address or mailing address, nursing address. Varieties of things. Varieties of things. So whenever during the blueprint phase, during the blueprint phase, when we are actually having discussions with the business, yeah, or the end users, then we'll ask them how many varieties of address types do you capture. Then they'll tell us that okay, we want to capture a permanent residence address, we want to capture a temporary address, and then maybe mailing address, or they'll give us 4 or 5 address types which they want to see as a part of the SAP system, which they will capture. Yeah, which will they will capture. So as a part of the standard SAP system, we will get all the majority of address types already. But
Okay.
if at all, whichever address type they have mentioned is not there in the standard SAP system, then we have to configure it. We have to configure it.
Okay.
So how do we configure address type? Let us see. How can we configure an address type? So open a new session. Open a new system. So we do the configurations in the IMG, in the implementation guide. So SPRO,
Okay.
SPRO, reference IMG,
Okay.
reference IMG,
IMG.
then personal management, personal management, personal administration,
Okay.
personal administration. You have personal data. You have a node called personal data. And within the personal data, you have a node addresses. Yeah, you have a node called addresses. Click on addresses, open the node. And another important point here is that against each and every node, you have documentation. Yeah, you have
Yes, sir.
documentation. You are seeing a scribble, paper and spectacles here. There is a documentation. If you click on this
Okay.
documentation, you'll be able to see, what exactly we are going to configure here and what exactly is this stuff. Yeah, you'll be able to see. Yeah, you'll be able to see.
Yes.
Now, that is called as, the addresses. And then, then you have to execute the node called as create address types. Yeah, create address types. So against this also you have documentation, ING activity documentation. And if you execute this, you'll be able to see that possible address types include permanent residence, secondary address, and mailing address and
Mail.
all this stuff. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, and you can also see, they have just explained so in a crisp manner. They also look at this, what they are saying. The standard SAP system contains the most common address types already. Yeah, they are saying that it already consists of the most common address types that are required. So we are seeing the most common address types here, which are already existing in the standard SAP system. So what are the permanent, temporary, home, emergency, mailing address, nursing address? All these are the standard address types in the SAP system which are already existing. Now, how do we configure a new address type? So if you want to create a new address type, we can create address type. Yeah, we can create address type, and this is the table. This is a table where we can set up a new address type of our choice. A new address type of our choice. So click on new entries. Click on new entries. The subtype is, let us say,
Yeah.
VASINC. Yeah, VASINC. Let's call it as
Yeah.
temporary address or permanent address. Let's say, yeah. Now, what is the long text you want to see? The long text is VASINC perm address. Yeah, perm address. And we have something called as time constraint class. Yeah, we have something called as a time constraint class out here. So if you hit on F1, you'll be able to see what exactly is this time constraint class and the documentation related to this time constraint class. So another important point here is in each and every field you will see documentation again. Yeah, apart from the
Okay.
IMG node documentation that we have seen previously, now in each and every field you'll be able to see the documentation. So all you need to do is hit on F1, yeah, F1, and the system will show the documentation. It will show the documentation. Now you just look at this. A time constraint indicates whether more than one info type record may be available at one time. Yeah, more than
Okay.
if more than one info type record may be available at one time. So what do you mean by more than one info type record available? Now let's get on to a spreadsheet, because this time constraint concept is very, very important, and we will be seeing this time constraint class concept moving forward, in different places. Now,
Okay.
what do you mean by more than one info type record existing? Now let's say permanent address. Yeah, permanent address. Now, permanent address will be there will be only one permanent address for an employee, isn't it? For a person, there will be only one permanent residence address. Now, whenever you are moving to some other city, Abhi,
Yes,
you're
sir.
moving
Yes,
forward,
sir.
let's say you move to the city as a part of your job. You got a job in some place like Delhi or somewhere, you move to Delhi.
Okay.
Then there they ask you to give your permanent address. Okay. So you will give your permanent address as your Vizag address only. There will be only one permanent address.
Right, sir.
Okay. You can't say that, okay, I have one permanent address in Vizag. I have another permanent address in Delhi. You cannot say like
Okay.
that. There will be only
Okay.
one permanent address. The address, whatever you have in Delhi, that will be temporary address. Yeah, it will be
Right.
your temporary address because you have relocated there. Yeah, because you have relocated there. So permanent address is the address where you have, all your, your Aadhaar card and all those stuff. That is where, Aadhaar card, whichever address is associated with your Aadhaar card, let us consider that as your permanent address for now. Yeah. So at any given point of time, there can be only one valid record that exists for a permanent address. For a permanent address. Whereas temporary address, yeah, temporary address, this can change. This can change from time to time. Yeah, this can change from time to time. Right.
Definitely.
So using, or there can be also one valid record for a temporary address. There can be one or two temporary address for an employee. That is valid. Yeah, that is valid. So using a time constraint class, we define, yeah, how many valid records can exist for a particular info type record. How many valid records can exist? So if time constraint one, if we assign time constraint one to permanent address, it means that, yeah, one info type record must be existing all the time. There should be one info type record that exists all the time, and there cannot be any gaps. That means, let's say I capture a permanent address between my hiring date is 0103, yeah, 2020.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
So from 0103 2020 till 31/12/9999, this record should exist always. This record should exist. Now let us say temporary address. Yeah, temporary address. Now there should be a record from 0103 2020. Yeah, 2020.
2020.
And let's say you have changed your temporary address after 1 month only. After 1 month.
Okay.
That means the first temporary address that you have captured, yeah, the first record, whatever you have captured, that is existing between 1/3/2020
One.
to 31/3/2020. Yeah,
Right.
2020.
Yes, sir.
And the second temporary address, whatever you are giving to the end user to capture,
That
that
must be
should
started.
exist from 01/04, yeah, 2020 till 30 or whatever time it is, or whatever time it is. Now, what do you
Okay.
mean by gap in the info type record? Gap in the info type record means, gap in the info type record means, so after 31/3/2020,
Okay.
you went back to your permanent address, yeah, for 3 4
Okay.
days or for 2 3 weeks. Then you came back again. You came back again.
Okay. Okay.
After coming back, you have a new address. So that new address begins from, yeah, begins from, let's say 05. Yeah, that is
Zero.
till 31/12/999. Fifth month. Yeah, fifth month. So from 1st March to 31st March, you were in one address, and then you went to your hometown for about 1 month, and you have came back
Okay.
to your work location. And after coming back, you shifted to a new location, and the start date in that address is 1/5/2020. So what is happening here? There is a gap of 1 month here.
1 month.
There is a
Right.
gap of 1 month.
1 month.
So whether these gaps are permitted or not, yeah,
Okay.
that is what we define using this time constraint class. That is what we define using this time constraint class. whether these gaps are permitted or not, whether there should be only one valid info type record always, yeah, or not. So all these things, that is what we are going to do, define using this time constraint. Yeah, using this time constraint. So did you understand what is gap here? Yeah, did you
No,
understand what
sir.
is
No, actually, I have a doubt. I didn't
gap?
understand.
Yeah,
Actually, there is 1 month gap between. I mean, 31st to and first again.
yeah.
Okay, that means the employee who is working in the organization, he went for vacation for 1 month.
Not really vacation. He has changed his address. I'm just giving example here of 1 month.
Okay. If
But
at all he
otherwise, what
changes the
happens
address.
is, yeah, if at all he
Okay,
changes address. Let's say
okay,
he was in this place. Okay, he was in this place till 31/12. Yeah, 2022. Let's say
oh, okay,
2022. And after this, after staying for about good 2 years, yeah, he went
okay,
to
sir.
some other place. He went back to his permanent address. He was given an
Okay,
option to work from home. He was given an
okay,
option to work from home. So he went back to his permanent address. So he worked
okay,
from his home for about good one year, let's say. So this is like 01/01/2023,
23
right?
days.
Because till end of December he was here. So from beginning of 2023 till, let's say, one year, let's say good 1 year, yeah, good 1 year,
Okay,
he was working from home, yeah,
okay,
2023.
23.
He was working from home. Sorry, good 1 year he was working from home, and then he came back to this address in 24, and then he is here
Till
9/9.
9.
So what is happening here? Till 2022, he was in his temporary address. Then for good 1 year,
Okay,
he is working from home or in the permanent
okay,
residence address. And then he came back to this city. Yeah, after 1 year, that is on 1 1
okay,
24 2024, he came back and he started living here again. So what is there here?
okay,
There's a gap of 1 year. This gap of one
okay,
year is called as a gap in the info type record. Yeah, info type
okay,
record.
okay,
So this particular subtype called as temporary address is not existing from 1/1/2023 till 31/12/2023. For good 1 year,
23.
there is no info type record for temporary address, right?
Okay,
For this
okay,
particular subtype. So this is what is called as gap.
okay,
This is what is gap. So whether a
okay,
gap can exist or not, or whether an info type record should always exist. So for example, for this permanent residence address, one info type record should always exist. Yeah,
okay,
there cannot be gaps like this. There cannot be gaps because this is permanent residence address. Always there
right,
should be a valid address. Yeah,
okay,
always there should be a valid address. So this is what is called as gaps. This is what is called as gaps. Then
okay,
another thing, more than two valid info type records at the same time. More
okay,
than two valid info type records at the same time. What does that mean? That means that, let us assume that there are two permanent addresses for an employee. Let us assume, just to explain you the concept I'm telling you this. Yeah, let's assume. So I have one permanent address in PM Palem. Yeah, yeah, in
okay,
PM Palem, and I also have another permanent address in, let's say, your MVP column. I'm just giving these examples because you are aware of this place. So there are
right,
two permanent residence addresses for this employee. Yeah, let's say there are two permanent residence addresses for this employee. So what is happening here? At the same time, there are two info type records existing.
right,
At the same time, there are two info type records existing. So whether this is permitted or not, whether there can be gaps in the info type record or not, This is what we define using the time constraint classes. This is what we define using time constraint classes. So this means that there are more than one info type record that is existing at the same time. This means that there are gaps in the info type records. Gaps in the info type records. All right. Now let's see the configuration of addresses. Let's continue with the, because this info type concept is very important. Moving forward, we are going to come across this time constraint class concept and info type records. We always talk about it day in, day out.
Yeah.
So SPR reference IMG, we have personal management, personal administration, personal data, addresses, create address type, click on new entries, the subtype that we thought of configuring, and the long text, and time constraint class. If you hit on F1, you can hit on either F1 or you can hit on F4 also. When you click on F4, you will see a drop down. Yeah,
Yes.
you will see a drop down. Now you see it says if we assign time constraint class 1, the record must have no gaps, no overlaps.
No
Yeah,
overlap.
no overlaps. Record may include gaps, no overlaps. Record may include gaps and can exist more than once. Yeah, can exist more than once. Now, what do you mean by overlapping? There is another concept here. Overlapping means, let's say here I have captured one permanent address from 1/3/2022 31/12/999. Yeah, 31/12. And the second permanent address, let's say I am capturing from, let me show it here. Okay, let's say the second permanent address I am capturing from 0101, sorry, 0101/03/2021 till 31/12/99. This is the other address. Okay. Now this period is common for both of them. That means starting from 1/3/2021 till 31/12/9999. You know, this period is common period for both of them, and this is called as overlapping. This is called as overlapping. All right, that means more than one info type record can exist at the same time, and this is called as overlapping. Yeah, this period is called as overlapping period. Okay, now whether all these things are okay or not, that is what we need to understand from client's requirement and give an appropriate time constraint class. So, and let me choose time constraint 1 here, yeah, which means that there can be only one info type record that can exist at any given point of time, and there can be and there should not be any gaps, yeah, and there cannot be any overlaps. Save it. So the concept of this info type records is very important, and more specifically when we are discussing about the master data maintenance, yeah, this happens. Now let's see the output of whatever we have configured now. So click on PA30, click on enter, go to the person number whom we have hired, give 6 addresses, hit on enter, click on the drop down here, click on the drop down and try to find out the address type that we have just configured. you scroll down, you'll be able to see the address type that we, yeah, the address type that we have configured. BASINC permanent address. And click on create, and then you can capture this address type. You can capture this address type. So this is what is called as configuration of info type 6 addresses. That means we have configured a new address type here. We have configured a new address type. This is all about info type 6. Info type 6. Now let me capture this. Let me capture this to show you
Okay.
what is this info type records concept. Let's say I'm capturing this from 01, let's say 03, B22, let's say. Yeah, 22. Address line 1, city is Atlanta, and then zip state is like Georgia, and then zip code. Okay, it is just saying that the start date is after the initial date of entry. That means it is just, because this is a permanent resident address, yeah, with time
Yes,
constraint
sir.
1, the system is saying that, hey, look, you are hiring, you're capturing this address type after the initial entry. After 1/3/2020, you are trying to capture this date, this address type. That is what it is giving as a warning. Click on continue. Click on continue and save.
Yeah.
This is how you get this. Now, when you want to see how many records are present for this particular info type, so you can click on address here, yeah, and there is something called as an overview. You can click on the overview. When you click on the overview, you can see that we have captured two address types. You see here, two address
Yes,
types. The first address type we have captured while hiring this employee, and the second address type we have just captured. We have just captured. That means two info type records are existing for this employee for this info type. Yeah, two info type
yes, sir.
records are existing. Now, same thing if you want to look at personal data.
Personal data.
Click on overview. Click on overview. Only one record of personal data is existing. Only one record. So when you click on the overview, you will be able to see how many records are actually existing. How many records are actually existing. And click on addresses, hit on enter, click on overview. Yeah. Now here you can change also this info type record. Click on the info type record and change. If at all you want to make changes to this address type, you can make changes. So this is after capturing for the first time. If you want to change, you can change. Or while hiding, we have captured this address type. If you want to change some information, you can change it. You can change it here. Now, so this is all about the master data entry, how to capture, how to, see the input type records.
So small doubt, small doubt.
Yeah, yeah.
In personal data, it will capture only one data, right? When one
Record.
in yes, in personal, it will capture only one record, right? That will be
Yeah,
permanent.
yeah.
That will be permanent one.
Permanent always, yes.
In
But
addresses, it will cap. Sir, please.
but you can experiment always. You can experiment. Now let's say we have one personal data record that is existing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This record is from 31/12/999 up to
Uh,
31/12/999. Now, if you want to change it, if you want to change it, You click on change, and you can change few of the details, the required details here. Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
let us say you want to create another record. Will the system allow you or not? That is what your doubt is, right? So
Yes,
click on
yes, sir.
create and see. Click on create and see how the system reacts. You can always play around with the system. There's no problem. Yeah, let's say you
Okay.
got this, I'm not available. While you're practicing, you got this down. You click on create and see. You can play around. There's no problem. Yeah,
Okay,
there's
sir.
no problem.
Okay, sir.
Now you capture and see what the system does. You try to save it and see what the system does.
Okay.
You try to do it when you are practicing and see
Ah, sir.
the output, how the system reacts.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Not only for this info type, for any other info types, yeah,
Okay, sir.
you try to create new info type records, you try to change the existing record and see
Okay.
what the system has to say, how the system reacts. Now, the next info type is planned working time.
Plan.
The next info type is planned working time. Yeah, planned working time. So in this info type, we capture the work schedule rule of an employee. Yeah, this info type is more relevant to time management.
Okay.
Is more relevant to time management, and we capture work schedule rule of an employee. Work schedule rule in the sense, what are the timings in which the employee is expected to work? Yeah, how many days in a week the employee is expected to work? In which
Okay.
shift? In which shift the employee
Yep.
is expected to work? Yeah, basically we capture the shift related details. Yeah, using this
Yes.
work schedule. Using the work schedule rule. Yeah, using the work schedule rule. And this is most important info type with respect to time management, as well
Okay.
as with respect to payroll. As well as with respect to payroll. This is
Payroll.
most important info type. And we capture work schedule rule of an employee. And using this work schedule rule, we define in which shift the employee is expected to work, what are the shift timings, the shift is a fixed shift or a rotating shift, yeah, and when exactly the employee is going to have the holidays, yeah, what is the holiday calendar. We are going to define all this information. We are going to do all these configurations, using this work schedule rule, and it's a
Okay.
lengthy configuration. It's a lengthy configuration. Now, let me give you a little introduction about this info type. We said that, as for the example, what we are seeing right now, we said that we have four personal sub areas, right? One is production, yeah. Another one is finance, yeah. We said there is another one HR, and then sales.
Okay.
Sales. These are the personal sub areas, and these are under the
Yes.
personal areas called as Atlanta and Dallas.
Indeed. No.
Atlanta and Dallas.
Dollars.
Now, the employees working in the production department or in the production personal sub area, yeah, the employees working in the production sub area. Let us say the production department has to work all the 365 days. The production process should not stop. For example,
Yes.
we have cement plants. In the cement plants, the production process goes on and on and on and on and on as long as you supply the raw material. Yeah,
Right.
there's no end to
Yes,
it.
sir.
There's no stopping to it. There is no stopping to it until unless there is some kind of breakdown in the machinery. Yeah, uh, where the production has to be deliberately stopped. Otherwise, there is no stop. It goes on and on and on all the 365 days. Yeah, all the 365 days. So now, now when we say that the production has to go all the 365 days, that means that the entire 24 hours there should be some staff present. They should be at the work. That means shift one might start, let us say, at some 6 o'clock in the morning, yeah, and after 8 hours, the shift ends. 8 hours in the sense, after 6 and 6 is 12, 13, 14 hours. 6 o'clock in
Okay.
the morning till 14 hours, let us say.
40 numbers. Yes,
That is 2 p.m. is the first
yes,
shift.
sir.
Then second shift starts at 14 hours, yeah, and ends at
And
22 hours.
24,
And
22, right?
third shift starts at 22 hours on one day and ends at 6 hours on the next day. On the next day. So what is
Yes, sir.
happening here? The employees belonging to production personnel sub area, yeah, they have to work in any one of these shifts, yeah, and it is possible that these shifts might be rotating shifts for the employees. That means week one, the first week of the month, yeah, the first week of the
Yes, sir.
month, the employee may have to work in first shift, yeah. Second week of the month,
Okay.
second week, the employee may have to work in the second shift. Third
Second
week,
shift.
the employee may have to work in the third shift. Third week, third shift. And
Okay.
fourth week, the employee may have to work in the first shift again.
Yes,
And part fifth week, yeah, part fifth
yes,
week,
yes.
if at all we have, the employee may have to work in the second shift.
Second shift. Yeah, got it.
What do you mean by this? This is rotating shift. Is this
Yes,
rotating
sir.
shift? The
Right.
employees work in rotating shifts. Shift timings are not fixed. Yeah, they keep changing week on week, right? Week on week.
Yes, sir.
Because as per the labor laws or labor norms, the employee, one single employee should not be working all the, in the night shift always. Yeah, it
Yes,
is
sir.
against
Yes,
the
sir.
labor laws. So the shifts keep on rotating. The shifts keep on rotating. Shift keep on rotating. All right.
Yes, sir.
Now this is called as rotating shift. This is called as rotating shift. Now, whereas the employees working in finance and HR department, they work in one single shift. That is 8 o'clock to 16 hours or 17 hours. That's all.
Okay.
8 o'clock in the morning till 17 hours. That's all. One single shift day in and day out. This is called fixed shift. This is called fixed shift. And the employees working in HR and finance department, they work in one single shift. Right? Sales. Let's say the sales division employees, there are a few companies where we have only domestic sales. If there is only
Okay.
domestic sales, this is a shift in which they are going to work. Yeah, this is a shift in which they are going to work. But let us
Okay.
say there is also international sales. Let us say
Okay.
there is also international sales. So the international sales depends on the geography in which they are doing the selling. So there might be few employees who might be working in the US and Canada shift. There might be few employees who are working in the European shifts. There might be few employees who are actually working in the, Australia, New Zealand shift maybe, or there might be few employees who are working in the Middle East, kind of shift. So it all depends actually. It all depends on when The employees are expected to work based on their business process. So
Okay.
in the work schedule rule, we define all these things. We define all these things.
Oh,
Different shifts, rotating shift or fixed shift. We are going to define all this. Yeah.
that's
So let us stop here for now, Abhi. Yeah. And we'll catch up tomorrow same time. Yeah. 7 a.m.
fine. Okay.
And
Yes.
we'll take it ahead from there. Yeah. But
Sir.
you have to practice.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Okay, sir. Bye.